welcome back to another episode of Bad Flashes. I'm your host, Calebknueven, baddest of the flashes. As you can probably tell from the very sensual intro, we're talking about Mamiya RZ67 II. As some of you may have noticed, my last few videos, I was using that camera. Now I know, you're like, Caleb, why didn't you text me about it, bruh? You tell me right away, you tell me everything. This virus has changed you. And to that, I'm sorry. And I'll do better for you. But the thing is I want to put this camera through my paces, shooting the way that I usually shoot. I've had this camera for about 3 months now, and confession time, it's not actually mine. I'm borrowing it from a friend who owes me a solid. Let's just call him Ansel Adams. That friend broke my Pentax 6.7. If any one of you know me at all, you know the Pentax 6.7 is my baby. It's my love. It's the thing that wakes me up in the morning with a gentle kiss on the cheek, saying, you're worth it. So he ever so graciously said, take my Mamiya, and I wasn't gonna pass that up. So I've taken it on a hike, I've taken it on walks around the block, I've taken it on long walks around Burbank. Is this what you do?
Yeah.
I took it to Desert Center. Also did a lot of testing with it. So now I can say that I've loved it, and I've put it through its paces, and I've caressed it so gently. One thing I've learned is, I thought the Pentax was heavy. Carrying that thing around for 3 months, getting me jerked. No, it's not. So I figured, you know what? I should do a review so I can let you fine peoples of the interwebs know, my thoughts on this camera. So let's do it. Oh my God, this thing. First thing you need to know, this weighs 100 pounds. Scientific fact. So the cool thing about the RZ and the RB to some extent is that it's a modular system. So it's designed with taking this apart and putting it back together. So you can get a different lens, you can get a different viewfinder, you can also get a different back for it. With this being a modular camera, it really opens up your possibilities. The Mamiya RZ67. I gotta say, the design on this camera is just so phenomenal. Everything is streamlined to just take a beautiful image. This 110 is so crisp and sharp at 2.8. So the first thing you need to know is that this camera focuses by bellows. So you use these knobs on the side, but on both sides, which is fantastic. You can kind of get to it from either side here. The really cool thing is that there's critical focus on this inside knob. Crit folk. On this side, you have a chart for the bellow extension compensation. So the cool thing about the bellow system is that you don't really need a macro lens. You can actually focus really close. Ow, I pinched my finger. Other great thing about these lenses is that they're leaf shutter lenses, so you can fire a flash at any speed on the lens where you have your flash sync cable. The biggest thing you need to know about the RZ67 is that it's a fully electronic camera. That means this camera will not fire without a battery. Unless you go into this very weird mode right here. I haven't found a name for it, but I call it battery save mode. By the shutter button, there's a red, white, and orange dot. The red dot is locked, so you don't fire when you don't want to. In battery save mode, you can only shoot the shutter speed at 1/400. When I started testing this camera, I didn't know that button existed, so I just took it out and fired away. I went through like 2 or 3 rolls before I found out, oh no, you f***ed up, bro. Another quirk about the battery save mode is that it will allow you to take a photo with the dark slide in. Usually when you're operating this camera normally, you have to take the dark slide out for you to shoot. But with battery save mode, it don't care. You can take a photo with the dark slide in or out, and it will still advance to the next frame. I learned the hard way. Oof, do you hear that sound? Oof. Oh my God, it's so nice. Oof. The camera takes a 6-volt LR44 battery. Another back that you can get for the camera is actually one of these guys. A pack film back. So if you're one of those lucky 3 people who have pack film still, you can shoot it with this. When I picked the camera, my buddy actually had some film in there, so he took a few photos of me. Another note on this camera is that it's really a 2-handed camera. You can focus with either one of them. You'll change the shutter with your left, you'll cock and shoot the shutter with your right. On the right side here, we have one of the focus knobs. We have the film advanced, which also advances your magazine, unlike the RB where you have to advance both. Another big feature on this camera is the rotating back. That's why it's called an RZ, for rotating back. Duh. If you want to rotate the back, all you gotta do is move the dial over and rotate the back. What happens then is inside your viewfinder, it changes your frame lines. In both landscape and portrait mode, you happen to have the dial showing you what frame you're on. Another thing, on the right side, you'll notice an M for multiple exposure. All you have to do is put the dial on the M, shoot away. Shoot all the frames you want. Every frame. You can shoot 1,000 frames. You want to shoot 1,000 frames? 1,000 different pictures on one picture? I think you do. I would. And on the left side, it's fairly chill. Since this is an electronic camera, unlike the RB, this is where you choose your shutter speed. Top shutter speed is 1/400. I think that's a little weird. Why not just go to 5? But I didn't make this camera. But then you have increments all the way down to 8 seconds. There's also a bulb mode. Now you gotta keep this little piece of information in your mind bank, because bulb mode only goes for 1 minute. And the reason for that is because it takes battery power to keep this shutter open. It doesn't want you to take a 50-minute long exposure, draining the battery, thus, ruining everything afterwards. No. But if you wanted to do a 2-hour long exposure, that's where you have to go to the lens. And you can keep this lens open for as long as you want. To use the long exposure on the lens, move this lever over to the end. Now you see the T. For time, fire the shutter. After the 2 minutes, the 4 minutes, the 5 minutes, do a little cock. That's it. Then you go on your merry way and not take a long exposure again, because that's a pain in the ass. Also on the shutter dial is an RBL mode, which lets you use older RB lenses, and you'll control the shutter on the lens in that case. Also on the left-hand side, you have a focus lock down here, right? So you just focus up and you can lock that so you can't move it anymore, which I guess is nice for when you're doing studio work. Well, to view your image, maybe open up the top here, just like a Yashica or a Hasselblad, maybe even the top to your dad's convertible. So you do all the focusing by the screen. It's all backwards, cattywampus, we've been through this game before. This ground glass is phenomenal. It's maybe the brightest thing since the sun. The other cool thing is this magnifying glass. So now you can check focus. I'm in crit folk now. Sorry, I didn't know if I had to spell it out. Critical focus. Yeah. So you don't have to just use the waist viewfinder. You can also get yourself a prism finder. So you just hit these 2 tabs, take up. And the prism finder, all you gotta do, put it on top, move this little bar over, and boom. Now, you can use it. Oh God, this thing is heavy. You can hold it up to your eye and focus. That's how close I can focus to the lens, right there. Boom. Just feels so good. To advance this camera is amazing. And just, The prism viewfinder, let's get back to the prism viewfinder. The prism viewfinder is as bright as the waist level viewfinder. The only downside, it's like 10 times the weight. There's no way I'm taking this thing on a hike with this viewfinder. I would be breaking a sweat more than a Yeti would. Wait, the Yetis sweat? The prism viewfinder is nice, so you can continue to use it like a DSLR, and everything is the right way around. So now, that takes us to the film back. You have an advanced knob, you have your frame count. You also back here have a dial on what your ISO is, but that doesn't do anything other than let you know what it is. To load your film, there's these 2 levers on the side, and just the back pops open, like so. Then you can take out this little section right here. So you just put it in and run it back, and then, do that, and there's a little start arrow there, so if you get your hands on it, you'll know what to do. Trust me. From there, you just slap it on the back, close it up, close those tabs. You're ready to rock and roll. Take out the dark slide, put it in the back. Now you can go shooting your camera. This camera is maybe one of the sexiest cameras I've ever operated. It's just pure joy. Yeah, sure, there's some cons. Fully electronic. Man, I don't know. In today's age, that's starting to become a deal breaker. I mean, my Pentax 645 I had for a year until it just died on me, out of the blue. And there's no fixing it. What? Sure, it has battery save mode and you can shoot it at 400, but that's a very limited camera at that point. The weight's another big one. Honestly, I thought the Pentax 67 was heavy. I take that thing on hikes all the time. After one hike with this, I don't know. My arm was hurting after that. I have to say, when I first started using it, I wasn't the biggest fan. Yeah, it's a lovely camera, but I was used to my Pentax. This is not a Pentax. But after you get to use and know your camera, it just becomes a joy to use. This camera's like a relationship. When you take the time to get to know, love, and nourish your relationship, they'll love you tenfold back. Wow, I think I could be a psychiatrist or something. I didn't even feel about that. You have GAS, gear acquisition syndrome. That's why your relationship with your girlfriend's failing, because you love cameras more than... So what about pros? This might be a weird one, but it's not, because honestly, that shutter sound is amazing. Anytime this thing goes off, people come out of their homes. They're like, what? What is that? Wait, what? Did that sound like a Mamiya RZ67? Oh, that's a nice camera. Another pro, the film advance. The sound and then, it just gives you forward momentum action and it just makes everything right in the world. When you advance the film lever, you know that was a dope photo. Another pro, the rotating back. Having a rotating back just to be composed and liking the composition, but then thinking, okay, wait, is this it? Is this the best I could do? Now it is. Get a completely different feel for the camera without having to compromise changing your camera position. The other thing I really like is that the focusing screen on this thing makes you want to take a photo. Everything looks so good. It just makes you want to shoot more. Another pro is multiple exposures. You don't get that on a lot of cameras, and that's pretty hot. So, here are my final thoughts. As much as this was a joy to have for 3 months, for me, it may not be the best camera. I like to have a light and nimble camera to be able to take around wherever I'm going to take photos. Now, I know you're thinking, a Pentax 67, that's not that light. But compared to this, it totally is. I think the ergonomics of a Pentax 67 work a little bit in the favor as well. It's kind of hard to walk around and take photos kind of with a big box sometimes. I think where this camera really, really shines is in a studio situation. You can change your backs really easy. New film, new film, new film, new film. Everything about this camera makes it a beautiful studio camera. Doing great. Oh yeah, oh let me focus a little bit. See, so everything about this camera is built for studio, not for walking around. And I walk around a lot. You know, I gotta get my exercise. Now, if I was in the studio, boom, 100 billion%, I'm taking this thing with me. There is nothing about this camera that would not shine in a studio environment. So that's my take on the Mamiya RZ67. Honestly, I do wish I had it though. I wish I had all the cameras. I'm like a Pokemon. I want to catch them all. Wish I didn't have to give this back. Well, I think it's about time for me to go. Get out of here. It's a Friday. Not that you actually know because you'll watch this on a Thursday. So time for me to go because it's Friday. You don't know what day it is. Does that break the mystery? I don't know. Okay, see ya. Wear your masks. Be safe. Things are getting kind of crazy again out there, so cover up. I care. I care about you. That's why I care. I love you. I don't know if I've said it enough, but I love you. Okay, bye.